No, you're not seeing things here, ladies and gentlemen. We are here with a real treat to start the week off here on Sportzwire Radio with a man, everybody uses the term "I've been everywhere," man. Literally, this man has done that. He's on his way here in this part of the country, this part of the world. He's in a band once again that was one of my all-time favorite bands, and he's got an album that I am very excited to spend a few minutes on. And oh, by the way, there's Kings of Thrash that is still out there in a country near you. And he's also got his own show, which I check out all the time religiously. It's got a who's who of people in the world of heavy metal. And I'm talking about none other than the legendary bassist David Ellefson, now the newest member of metalchurch. And my friend, an absolute honor to have you on here. And thank you for spending a few minutes with us here on Sportswire Radio.
You're welcome. Do I call you the Rev? Is that the name?
Well, actually, you and I actually share something in common. We're both actually lords. We actually have the Sealand title. Actually, we both.
Oh, no
have
shit! Really? You're an owner in Sealand? No.
Yes,
kidding.
I am. Yes, I actually own. I have the title of it. Yeah,
I
was gonna put it in here, but you're David Ellefson. Usually the reason I'm here is actually I'm really big in the world of wrestling. I've had the WWE wrestlers on, and sometimes for whatever reason, bands like to come on my platform because of the crossover. I was gonna put it in the Reverend Lord Tom Bryce, but you're David Ellefson. You arguably are one of the greatest bass players of all time. So I didn't want to, big time you on that. So
I could be the Lord David Ellefson. Yeah, it's funny because my friend Drew from the Lucid, Drew 48, he's the one who turned me onto that. So I became I guess when you own land, you're the Lord. Then I also became
sir, right?
A sir, yes, exactly. A sir. And is there also like a baron or something? So
So I got the Reverend title first, and then I just got the Lord title, and then probably by the next time you'll see me, I'll have the Sir title, and then we can compare and contrast. Who knows? Maybe it'll get me another opportunity. But an absolute honor to have you on here. I'm really excited because you have a lot of things you've been working on. Obviously, the Ellefson Soto album. I love the first one. The second one's even better. I'll spend a minute or two on that. But you're the newest member of metalchurch, and I love the new song. I've heard on Sirius is like some liquid metal. And talk to me about being a part of the band and what can we expect coming up?
It's really great. I've always been a big fan of Kurt Vanderhoof's, songwriting. I've been friends with him since probably 1985. So our paths have just randomly crossed in the funniest places, the band obviously through all of it has maintained its sound, and I think having Brian Allen come in as a respectful, new vocalist, is fantastic. When I heard the demos, first of all, it's like, okay, to me, the benchmark is always that first album, man, because that first metalchurch album is just, it's the shizba, right? So I go, man, this is on point. And then listening to Brian sing, I was just like going, man, this guy has got the goods, man. And I heard like little bits of Nazareth, John Oliva from Sabotage, of course, some David Wayne. There's like all these little nuances in there, these little layers that I'd hear and go, oh my God, this guy's checking the boxes of like some of my favorite singers ever. And yet clearly his own style, And,
Absolutely.
So no, it was kind of sight unseen. I had not met Rick Van Zant yet, the other guitar player. But I went over to record, over in California at Kurt's home studio. So we cut the bass tracks, and then it was right after that. Brian came down to sing, and then we cut the other guitars, and with I guess they cut real guitars, Rick and Kurt, but and then Ken Mary was kind of a later addition, to be honest with you. We had Jeff Plate was in the drum chair, but all of a sudden his life got really busy because this last summer they came. I'm in Europe right now. He came over here to Europe with Sabotage, and they ran that up the flagpole. Sabotage has always been very popular over here, and especially
I know in America they just never really broke, but in Europe they were massive.
In Europe, it's a thing. Yeah, so it's funny. In Europe, Sabotage is still a thing, and of course, then in the winter months, it's Trans-Siberian Orchestra, right?
I
Which
know. Well,
is,
and Jeff Scott Soto, who obviously Ellefson
yep,
Soto, and he's
yep,
out there, and he's playing, with the big
yep,
arenas. Yeah, for sure,
yeah.
absolutely.
So it's a lot of, it's an interesting thing in life. I was very lucky to be in one group for, most of my life, and I never sought to, like, oh, I want to go solo or I need to do four other bands. I never, but then the day came where the group ended. And then, that just sort of created a space for me to just spread my wings and, get just start playing with a bunch of other people, which quite honestly, I felt like my chops really needed
I know the bass
my
playing on the Elephant Soto album. I feel like it's your best bass playing. I was listening because I was a bass
thank
player,
you.
and I used
Yeah.
to play to your songs and in a previous or group. But the bass
Mhm.
playing to me is so it stands out, and even the single which I put up here, which you can hear on Liquid Metal, and we'll obviously I'm sure hear more about it in the coming weeks, certainly into 2026. I just think there's something what your bass playing. It's warm, it's prodding, it's in front, it's not buried, it's not where I gotta
Mhm.
go here and like the seventh layer and hear the bass. It's like that bass hits you. I really feel like
Yeah.
your bass playing is like the best it's ever been.
I thank you. I appreciate that. And I felt the same way on the new Ellefson Soto record, Unbreakable. I felt like, we wrote those songs over the course of almost 2 years. When Andy Martin and I went up to Wembley in London and started writing that record in 2023, I guess it was.
It was
And then,
22 when the first album came out.
yeah, so when 23, we were back at it. We were working, we were writing the stuff. Sometimes songs have to kind of sit and simmer. And of course, for us, we weren't exactly sure what direction it was going to go until finally I hit Jeff last summer and I said, "Hey, do you want to do another Allison Soto record?" And he was like, "Hell yeah, let's do it." Which I was kind of surprised because we know going into this stuff that the touring opportunities are a bit limited just because of schedules and everything.
Right.
And it's expensive. That's just a reality. And anybody watching this who's a musician,
Yeah,
trying to get it.
I just had Dangerous Toys guitarist Scott Del Hoover, and he was talking about how it's just he's only doing fly-ins. That's it. They're going to do some
Pretty
dates
much. Yep.
next year, and
Yep.
that's it. I had Mark Kendall of Great White at the beginning of the year, and he's the king of the fly-ins, and I hope Mark's doing well.
Yep.
But he went through some health scares, but that's what it is. Yeah, I mean Scott was talking about that on Friday with me.
Yeah, so I think we go into these things, always about the music, the fun of creating. I mean, me and Jeff and Andy Martingelli, when we write these Ellison Soto records, we have a great time. There's a lot of laughs. The text threads are extremely long, just shit talking, and honestly, I think that's for me now is more important than anything.
Yeah.
Am I having fun? Does the music just rock my world and does it get me excited? So when I
You
was
know,
in playing the bass on that last record, on Unbreakable, um all of a sudden I went down into some place. It was a deep dive, man. And suddenly licks were coming to me, parts were coming to me. And again, I'm a co-writer of every one of these songs
yep.
as well.
Yep.
But it's like now I'm in, when I'm in there playing bass, now I'm in there just really going deep as a bass player, as a rhythm section guy, as a melody guy. And when I came up for air, I was just like, I don't know where I just went. I was just trying to transport it off into
Well, it's
some.
funny you said that because when I heard the album, when I got it, and I feel like
Mhm.
I've listened to it several times over. There's a term that I feel for this album, and you probably would be blown away with what I feel about it. It's almost to me there should be a term called high energy metal, and I feel like this album, especially the second song, "Son of a Fill in the Blanks" and
Yeah, yeah,
"Shout," that to
yeah.
me it should have. I know we have thrash metal, which obviously you're a founding father of, and
Right,
power
right, right,
metal and
right.
doom metal and all these other terms, but I feel like high energy metal. This album is literally from start to finish, even the Queen cover, the definition of that.
That's still okay. We'll take that. It's that's the thing is you're right. I am, look, thrash metal is was a cornerstone of my career. I played a lot of other types of music before that, and because I did that, it allowed me to come in and paint a new canvas, if you will, for the thrash metal thing. And I think in Megadeth we did that with our first lineup, Gar and Chris. coming from a jazz background, and me having even studied some jazz and played that stuff. All of a sudden you come at it with a little bit different mindset than just being a rocker guy. But then you fast forward, you get all these different experiences, making records, playing with a lot of different people, writing with a lot of different people. It really shapes who you are. And so you get to this point in life where I'm at now. And Andy Martingelli boxes every day, so he is energy guy. And he's Italian. He drinks coffee like I do. He drinks more than me.
And
And
obviously, you can go to your website to buy coffee. By the
buy
way,
coffee,
you gotta
exactly.
buy it. You gotta
So
buy that coffee.
between Andy's hyper energy, my I'd like to think decent good nature, and energetic, just sort of vitality that I have. And same with Jeff. Jeff Scott Soto is one of these guys. He walks in a room with a big smile, and out of him comes a big voice. And we talked about it. We said, we like songs, kind of like Kiss and Judas Priest. They were always these power uplifting songs.
And obviously,
We,
Ripper's
us,
on vengeance, so that makes sense. Judas Priest,
totally. No, I gotta say, and it's funny. I asked him, when I asked him to do that, they came to Phoenix, KK's Priest and Accept, and we were backstage. I said, Tim, where did you get your stage clothes, dude? Your look is really good. He goes, oh man, Amazon. So we're looking on Amazon. We're buying jeans, buying stage jeans. Right? Show
Who
me
would
how to
have
buy
guessed
jeans.
that one, ladies
I
and
mean, come
gentlemen?
on, yeah,
Yeah.
we're not calling like closing for the stars. We're going, fuck yeah, let's buckle that bullshit. Let's just get some of these. So it's funny, but I asked him, I said, hey, would you be down with, guesting on a record? He goes, totally, absolutely. He didn't make any bones about it at all. He was super appreciative. Because I gotta say, man, and my band Dieth, we did some dates
Yes,
with KK's Priest over here
I
in
remember
Europe
that. I remember that.
last summer as well. But seeing Tim, over a handful of performances, and then in Phoenix, I'm like going, dude, this guy is singing better than he's ever sung in his entire
I
life,
know, and that's
and
for
that
a guy
does,
that played on Jugulator, Demolition, sang on the Iced Earth.
yeah,
I mean, this guy is like, what a
yeah.
wonderful singer.
And for your voice to get better, and I would say the same with Bruce Dickinson. His voice is
Yeah,
better now than it ever has been. That's not usual because the voice is a muscle. It ages, it goes through its, just like your biceps and
yeah,
everything
yeah.
else. It's part of the human body, and as we age, if I had a chiropractor friend of mine down in Mexico City, and I just saw him when we were down there with Kings of Thrash a couple weeks ago, and he was the one who said to me, he goes, David, anything up to age 40 is generative, everything after 40 is degenerative. So if you're over 40, so they call it over the hill.
Well, I have a
once
lot
you're
of
over,
wrestlers on it. I just
yeah,
had on 2 WWE wrestlers in a week, so they could probably tell you every little nook and cranny and
yeah,
all the different things they went through. In fact, my guest that came on Friday, Jumpin' Jim Brunzel's had 14 surgeries. 14
yeah,
surgeries. And the guy before that, Raven, I mean, basically,
yeah.
he's the walking definition of the game operator. And we used to all play as kids. I mean,
Yeah,
it's unfortunately
right.
the reality of it,
Operation. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and so you're I think again the point being over 40, you're basically trying to hang on to everything you have, you know what I mean?
Right.
And
Yeah.
so for singers and guitar players as well, drummers, look, it hits drummers probably the first, you know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like because it's such a especially if it's what do you call it? High energy metal,
I'm calling
right?
it high
It's
energy metal, yeah, because to me
high
it's
energy
just
metal.
that
Yep.
that thing, and and if you want to support Mr. Ellefson, go to davidellefson.com. Also, Metal Church Official on Instagram. I've been putting the links up here. We have a few more minutes with him. Also,
Mhm.
go to Metal Church Official for their website. Also, Mr. Ellefson on Instagram. Also, you have to hit the sub button for his YouTube channel, The David Ellefson Show. He's got the who's who of guests. I watch it all the time religiously, and please support him. And we also want to give him something shortly. And there's something that I have to bring up here to you because you have certainly some history with him. It's the 21st anniversary of Dimebag Darrell's passing today, and I was
Oh.
wondering what your thoughts were on. I'm sure you'll cover it on your show when you go back out and come here to the States again in 26. But what's your memories of Dimebag Darrell now that today is the 21st anniversary, sadly, of the passing of his death?
Can I give you three that stand
You
out?
whatever. You're
First
David
time,
Ellefson. I mean, I
yeah.
just know you're a busy
So
man.
so first time I met him was in Dallas, Texas, Dallas or Fort Worth, and we were out drinking. I was dating a girl, and she was from there, so we introduced. They're all Texans, right? So, we were out drinking, partying, and that night when we finished, we were kind of they were going to play a show the next night, and they invited me up on stage to play Peace Sells, which I did. But that night, we're pretty hammered, and he said, this is 1988. And he said, Darrell said to me, and he was Diamond Darrell back then. He was not yet
Yes.
the
Yeah.
Dimebag. And he said to me, he put his hand on my shoulder. He goes, David, he goes, peace sells, but who's buying changed my life. And I kind of was like, oh man, thanks, man. I appreciate it. He goes, no, man. He goes, no, man. I mean, it changed my life. You know what I mean? It was like one of those moments, and I
Yeah.
was a sobering moment, right? And so next day I get up, I jam with him. Now I don't see him for a couple more years. Cowboys from Hell comes out. Next thing they're on tour with us with Vulgar Display of Power. And we're in Europe. We're actually in Germany. We're in Hamburg, and there's a club there. That's the Reaper Bond. It's like their red light district, all that stuff, right? So we're all out hanging out and doing our thing. Dime comes in and he's got the black tooth grin
Ah,
tattoo. He goes, check it out, Dad. Pulls his shorts up, black tooth, whatever, black tooth grin. I said, dude, you just got a fucking tattoo out in the red light district. He goes, fuck yeah, man, black tooth grin, because that was his drink, right? And of course,
yep.
he took
Yeah, I
that
remember. I
from the
remember.
Megadeth song "Sweating
Yeah.
Bullets,"
Yeah.
right? That's
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
got that from. So I'd see people walking around anywhere in the world, rockers with the black tooth grin. I go, God, if they only knew the history of that. And it was actually that day we were right after that we were backstage and he was warming up with his guitar. I went next door to his dressing room and I said, "How do you do your pick squeal thing?" Because he had kind of a unique way that
Yeah.
he did his pick squeal and he had his whammy bar
Yep.
thing that he did. And so he was showing it to me how he did it. And of course, for him, it was just this very natural kind of one movement, like thing that he did. And then the third thing of note was the last time I saw him, and God, it was maybe 2 weeks before um, before he was killed. They came to Phoenix, and he was using crank amplifiers, and they were friends of mine in Phoenix, right? And the guys who owned the company and guys who worked for the company. And they came through. They played the Marquee Theater. I went down and saw him. He was just starting to throw back some drinks, some shots, and I'm a
Yeah.
sober guy. I don't drink anymore, and I don't care what anybody else does. But they're we chatted for a minute, and just kind of, hey, what's up? How are you? Blah blah blah. One of those kind of things, and I stayed for about, I don't know, 3 or 4 songs. And he was with Damage Plan, of
Yep. With
course.
Pat Latchman as the singer. Yep.
Yep,
I
Pat.
remember.
Yep. And I remember leaving the venue. I was going, I think I'm gonna get going. I think it was kind of a weeknight or something. And so I got going back. I remember leaving the venue, walking across the street to the parking garage to my car, and I had this very weird feeling inside going, wonder if I should wait till after the show. Should I say goodbye? I don't want to just blow in to catch a couple songs. But I was like, I wasn't feeling like staying, but I had a very kind of heavy feeling leaving. And then, literally, I remember right where I was. I was in my office. I was working for Peavy at the time. I was in my office, and a crew guy that I know, who's worked for a bunch of people, Rick Nielsen and a bunch of people. He called me up. He goes, man, it's a bummer. What about Dime? I said, what are you talking about? He goes, you didn't hear? I said, no. He goes, he was shot. I said, is he okay? He said, no, dude, he died. I'm like, whoa, what the fuck? You know what I mean? Like, fill me in. It was like this kind of, one of these messages in passing,
I know.
and I was like, dude, what happened? And of course, I learned about it. And, that was the day the heavy metal world changed, especially something of that level. And I mean, then, is everybody else okay? Rat, the drum tech, I saw him at NAM a month later in January. He showed me where one of the bullets
Yep. I
grazed
remember
past his
that. Yeah.
skin, and he's giving me the kind of the whole lowdown on it. I'm just going, oh my God, how horrifying. And then you think about that, because I mean, dude, a lot of the shows I played over the years with Megadeth and stuff. I mean, dude, it was a full contact sport.
Oh,
Dudes
I
jumping
have
on
two
stage.
friends that live who are wrestlers now. One of them was in a band and lived right where that venue was. So I mean, it's really something that's like
Yeah,
really,
so you think
a hit.
about the access to our buses, our vehicles, the access to our dressing rooms, the access, to us
Yeah,
and again, at the end of the day, we're just humans. We're just humans, right? So
yeah.
but to certain people and fans and stuff, we're not human. You know what I mean? So the fact that we could be accessed like what happened with them, I think was a major wake up call for the security. Of course, now Live Nation, certainly takes over from about the middle to the top is all Live Nation now. And of course, you will go to shows, there's metal detectors, there's all
I
these
just saw
things,
King's X
you
here in
know.
New York City in the Gramercy, and before you go into the building, they have
Yeah.
the detectors, and you take all
Yeah.
your stuff, and you give it to them.
Yeah, and now you know why. You know what I mean?
Obviously, yeah, yeah, yeah. It's one of those. It's one of
I
those
would
things.
say we're not there to harm anyone. We're just there to rock and have fun. But you put a bunch of people in a room, and it's just like letting a bunch of people on an airplane. We got to make sure that everything's safe here.
Yeah,
So it was
absolutely.
just, yeah. So I mean, look, that's a bigger narrative, of course, but yeah, it's I mean, talk about a guy who influenced so many people.
First song I ever learned
And
on bass was "Cowboys from Hell." It was the first song on the bass
really,
guitar I learned was "Cowboys from Hell." I still remember it, in my basement where I am right now. I would sit
yeah,
there and learn that. Obviously, I learned your songs next. No, actually, it was. I mean, your songs were next. But "Peace Sells Me
nice,
Buying" and
yeah,
"Sweating Bullets." But I know you're a busy man. I want to give you something before I let you go because I know you
sure,
get many awards. You've done a lot of different things. And by the way, everybody go to davidellefson.com. David Ellefson YouTube so you can watch the David Ellefson show. It's on his YouTube channel. Hit the sub button there. Metal Church Official, metalchurchofficial.com. Go out and support them. But I have a Hall of Fame, and I want to put you in my Hall of Fame because you do so much, and you have been obviously an inspiration to me musically and everything you do. And to just to
wow,
have you on here, yep, and a lot of my wrestlers that are big fans of yours, obviously, because they remember seeing you on stage on
yeah,
Monday Nitro, when you played Crush 'em there, Goldberg
yeah,
songs, a
yeah,
lot of
for
wrestlers,
Goldberg,
they,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
they, were big fans of yours, especially, Matthew Forsaken and Johnny Velocity. My mother sings, I was probably conceived to one of your songs, but, nevertheless, yeah, I thought you'd laugh, but, before I
Dude,
let you
that is
go,
awesome. Thank you
yeah,
for that. No,
yeah,
I'm not laughing. I'm laughing at what you just said about your mother giving
yeah,
conceiving on a show.
yeah.
But the certificate and that is very very kind of you, man. Thank
Yeah,
you very much for
before I
that.
let you go, I know
Thank
you got
you.
to run here, but I always ask, especially someone like yourself who has done literally everything that there possibly is. I get a lot of up and coming people on here, mostly though in the wrestling world. But if you have any advice for anybody that's up and coming, what would it be?
I was told years ago, just say yes. They don't call you to hear you say no. They call you to hear you say yes. So it's like, hey, do you want to come on the show and talk to the Rev? Sure. Do you want to be in this,
Okay, you're
local.
BSing me, but I'll take it.
No, I'm just serious. I did. When it came across my
Yeah.
desk, I say yes to most interviews. I do. I like talking to people. I'm a communicator. I,
Well,
I
mine
like it.
is
I mean,
different. My pitches, I've had the WWE on it. So like usually when they like, I get these, they're like, oh, you got WWE on, then it's usually like, all right, now we'll throw them off the
I mean,
stage.
look, that's the publicist's job is to vet
Yeah.
this stuff, right?
Shauna, thank you, Shauna.
Is
Shauna
just
likes
is
me.
just a dude in a basement with a microphone, or is this like a
Yeah.
real guy? You're a real guy,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But
I'm
just
real.
just
Yeah.
yeah, just in general, say yes to life, man. And if you need further explanation, watch that Jim Carrey movie, Yes Man, because it's
Oh
it's it's
yeah,
that
yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
that's a funny
Yes.
spin on it, but
Yeah.
but that has really been. That's kind of been my. It's not even a secret. I don't want it to be a secret. I wanted everybody to know it. It's like, just be in the room, man. Get in the
Yeah.
room, say yes. When someone invites you to the party, go to the party. someone
Yeah.
invites you to go do something, just go get involved. As long as it's not harming you or others, just get involved, man. Be involved in life, because
Yeah.
life has a way of expanding exponentially when you're in it. More and more things happen. You get to be part of more and more stuff. And let's face it, the only thing we take to our grave is our experiences.
Yeah.
And so it isn't about accumulating stuff. And I
Yeah. It
mean,
ain't going with you. It ain't going
Jesus
with.
told the disciples, travel light. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So,
It's
you
not
know,
coming with you. No,
yeah, it
definitely.
ain't going with
Definitely
you.
not. Yeah.
Take a stick and a bag and whatever, be on your way. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And it's just,
Duly
yeah,
noted.
whatever. So, but yeah, just, travel light and be of good cheer and say yes and get in the room.
Have cool will
That's it.
travel, a song of
That's
your
cool.
previous group. Yeah, have
Or
cool will
that. There you
travel.
go. Or that.
But
Yeah.
before I let you go, obviously we want everybody one more time hit the sub button for his YouTube channel, Mr. Ellefson. Go to his website, buy coffee, you can get a discount now. Also, Metal Church Official on Instagram, metalchurchofficial.com. Also, Elephant Soda, you can go and buy it on Instagram. Go from the links there. Amazon, I bought it there. Rat Pack Records. Shout out to them. Also, shout out to my friends at Cleopatra Records because Kings of Thrash has a live album out there, and I've done some work with them, so I have to give a cheap plug there. And obviously, and you were a huge part of Back to the Beginning. That was another thing that you were a part of. And
Yeah.
before I let you go, is there anything else you want to plug or share before? I know you. By the way, you're out there right now, and we're going to see you in Colombia, Argentina. You have a couple of gigs here before
Yep.
the year is
Yep.
out, and also you're with Ellefson with your band with Soto, Jeff Scott Soto here at the Whiskey in April, and also we're going to see you at Metal Church. I'm sure tons of dates, but anything else
Yep.
you want to plug, share, say before I let you go?
You know, Happy holidays.
Okay. Yeah.
As much as I say yes, keep going. It's fun. You know, what, take the time to smell the roses and enjoy the family time and enjoy the good cheer with everybody. And there's also a time for rest and a time to regroup and just relax into those moments as well. So,
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
thank you for all you do, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, we
It's
appreciate you. We appreciate you.
yeah,
Really for you,
yeah,
everything you've done for music. I remember, having, your albums and buying them and being so excited to learn, as a bass player. Although I didn't, become a bass player like you, but my brother's in a band, my mom sings, so I have to shout them out. Obviously, I used the
sure,
Megadeth reference there, because I wouldn't
yeah,
be
yeah,
here without it. And I want to thank
sure,
all my wrestlers who are really excited about you coming on, big fans of yours, and you can
good.
see Kings of Thrash coming up to a country near you, and especially here in Argentina, the 19th and the 20th. Mr. Ellefson just played in Italy. You're going to see him in Colombia next year. You're going to see him also as the newest member of Metal Church. The single FAFO is out, and you can find that on Sirius XM's Liquid Metal. You can go to davidellefson.com, and you have to go out and buy Ellefson Soto because as he has a song FAFO, he also has a song on there called SOAB. So definitely figure out what that is. And we're so honored to have you on here. And as the newest member of our Hall of Fame, thank you for all you do. Thank you for everything that you've done for me, just being here for a few minutes. And
You're welcome.
congratulations on being a part of Metal Church and the new album with Mr. Soto. And we'll see you soon.
That sounds good, my friend. See you later.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That's David Ellefson. My name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, your voice figuratively and literally where all music and wrestling matters. If you're here on Sportswire Radio, like, share, and subscribe. Follow Mr. Ellefson on all social media channels. And until then, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are on the number one global radio station that is Sportswire Radio, where all